Hi everyone, this is section 10.1, which is called Cost of Installment Buying. Here are a few things we need to know, okay? So the amount financed is what you actually borrow, so how much money you borrow, and that's going to be the cash price minus a down payment if you pay a down payment. Um, Sometimes you will, sometimes you don't. It just kind of depends on the situation. The words finance charge, that's talking about the interest charge, and that also actually includes cost of credit reports, bank fees, and that kind of stuff, because sometimes that's part of your loan. So to find the total finance charge, you total the monthly payments. So if you know the payment amount and how many months, you just multiply that, and then you subtract the amount borrowed, the amount financed. The deferred payment price is when you total all your monthly payments and add your down payment, and so that can tell you your deferred payment price. And so basically, it's including your down payment, everything you paid, basically. Okay, so we are going to do some calculating here. It says to complete the following table, and you can see you have a purchase price of 3,500, a down payment of 350, and then we have to find the amount financed. Well, that's a pretty simple calculation, because all we have to do is subtract, right? 3,500 minus 350, and that gives us the amount financed of $3,150. Okay. Now it's telling us the number of monthly payments. There are 24, and the payment is 139.61. So we take 24 times 139.61, and that's going to tell us the total of the monthly payments. So you simply multiply, and that's how much that you would have paid by the end of the loan, basically. So that amount is 350.64. And then from there, you're going to subtract then to get the total finance charge. So to get the finance charge, right, this amount, we're going to take 3350.64 and subtract the amount we financed, and that was the 3150, right? So that's how much we borrowed, right? We borrowed this amount right here. Okay, so then we subtract the amount borrowed, and we end up with a finance charge of 264. That would also be considered the amount of interest we paid, right? The finance charge is the amount of interest, and so we actually can call it either one. Okay, now if we look at the deferred payment price, we take that total monthly payment, right? The total of the monthly payments, 3,350.64, and then we add the down payment of 350. So the total amount, or the deferred payment, would be 3,764. It's also the total amount that we spent, right? Because we had this amount that we borrowed plus our down payment, and then we had to pay interest. So altogether, that would be our deferred payment price. All right, so we are going to start using the financial calculator, and you just want to really pay attention to how to put things into your financial calculator, and notice that we have this enter key, so we have to use that for some of the things that we're going to be doing. And then we'll also use the second key, we'll use the TVM keys. And so I don't think we use the enter key too much just yet, but we will down the road. And then TVM keys are going to be the ones that we are currently getting ready to use. And so we will need to know how to work with those and compute. So that's what we're going to be doing on this section. And then down the road in some other sections, we'll be using some things where we have to push enter and find some of these different things that our calculator will do, like the date function. So, okay, let's go on to this. Now, there's a lot of information on here. So I would suggest that you pause the video and look through all of this. So I was just talking about the TVM register, and when I'm talking about the enter key, we use that to put our calculators in a certain format. And so we want to format it to 9 decimal places. And so we do use enter key for that, but not for the TVM keys. I guess I want to be clear with that. But to make sure that you're showing 9 decimal places, you do this, right? You push second format, which is on the decimal key, 9 enter. And you want to be sure that you set it that way, basically for everything we do. If you ever reset your calculator, it goes back to 2 decimal places. Now, we're going to talk about this as we go, but to clear your TVM keys, you can just push second clear TVM, and you'll see the clear TVM is, let me take this off, right above the future value key. So when you're using the second key, it accesses those things that are printed above a key. And so then you want to do that each time you start a new loan. And right now we're just talking about loans. When we enter the payment amount, right, if we have to enter the payment amount or if we're finding the payment amount, it's going to look like this. It's going to have a negative, and that's because we're paying it in. Any money that we receive, we're going to use a positive, and this is always a confusing part for students. So you just want to be sure and practice this plenty. When we put in our interest, we always have to divide it by 12 for loans. Now down the road, we're going to divide it by some different numbers. And then let's see, there's other rounding differences. Sometimes when we use, so this book uses calculations with a big formula. We are not using the formula. We're going to use the financial calculator, but there are different calculations that will be off a little bit if you use the formula versus the financial calculator. So just know that if you're checking answers, if they use the formula for that answer, the answer may be off by just a tad after the decimal point. So, just remember that that can happen. You can always check with me if you're confused about that. So anyway, you can study this some more, or once we do some things with the financial calculator, you can go back to this and look through it again. Okay. The Truth in Lending Act is basically just says that it requires a creditor to give you basic information so that you'll understand your finance charge, your annual percentage rate, your APR, and that you really understand what's going on with your loan. So they are supposed to disclose that, and that's what it's telling you here. And then here I said we will not be using the formulas to calculate APR or payments. We will use the financial calculator instead. If you look in your textbook and see the formula, you should be really happy that we are using the financial calculator and not the formula, because I'm pretty sure you wouldn't like it at all. Okay. All right, so here we go. So here are the steps for putting things into your calculator. Now, we have some information given in this little advertisement that I have here. And so we're going to find the information we need on each part. So for instance, 60 months is going to be in. So it says enter the number of periods and press in. That's all you have to do. So on your calculator screen, type in 60 and then press your N key. That's it. And then it's entered into that register of your calculator for the number of periods, which is the number of payments also. And then we're going to take the loan. Oh, by the way, you don't have to do this in order. You do have to do compute last, but any of the other keys you can enter in any order that you want to. Excuse me. And so the loan amount is going to be, if you look down here in this advertisement, it says our loan amount is $9,045. Okay. It says amount financed. Remember, that is the amount of the loan. So we're going to put that under present value. PV is present value, $9,045. And so enter the loan amount. So type 9045 on your calculator screen and press PV. You do not have to use enter key for these TVM keys. That's only when you're doing some formatting thing on your calculator. And then enter the payment amount. So this actually tells us the payment amount, because notice we're calculating APR on this example. So the payment amount is right over here. You might not notice it because it's not within the text over on the part that we're reading. Our payment amount is $194.38. So we're going to put that in as a negative $194.38. So put on your calculator, you have to do it this way. You type in 194.38 and then you press your plus minus key to put a negative on that number. So you'll see the negative on your screen. Let's go back to the calculator. Here's your plus minus is right down here at the bottom. So if you press it, it'll put a negative. If you press it again, it'll take the negative off. But the number has to be on your screen before you can press the key. Okay? It says enter 0 for future values. So anytime a category is not used, we put a 0 in there to show that nothing's there, right? Okay, now it says press compute IY. And that's exactly what you do. The compute key, remember, is up in the upper left-hand corner. Compute IY, and then here's what you'll see on your screen. You will see 0.87439871. Okay, big long number goes all the way across your screen. There's probably some other decimal places that you're not seeing because the screen only can fit so many numbers. And then we're going to say times 12 equals, on this you're just doing it, so leave that interest amount on your screen, do times 12 equals, and we see that we have a 10.5% APR. And I'm going to go ahead and put the percent on there because we were finding the APR on this loan. Now notice it actually tells us that right here, right? It tells us that our rate was 10.5. And I just showed you how to find that rate based on all this information. So when we use the TVM keys, we are going to have at least 3 parts, and we'll calculate a 4th part. Sometimes we'll have 0 on something like the future value. For loans, it's always a 0 on future value because at the end of the loan, you should be at 0, right? Which is a good thing. That's where you want to be at the end of your loan. All right, so I'm going to stop this video and start a new one for more of this lesson.